Hello, I'm Sean Lambert, and this is my top 10 war games of 2023. We're going to go in reverse order from 10 to 1, and this list is a mix of computer games and tabletop games. So, no matter what you like, you got something on this list. And to be clear, these are not games that came out in 2023, maybe with one exception, but rather games that I played in 2023. My criteria for scoring were pretty simple. 10 was a good score, 1 was a bad score, and I rated based on historical topic, based on what are my favorite historical topics. Wargaming focus, so how much of a war game is it? Hours played, that's very, very important, because if I haven't played enough of the game, it's really hard to say if it's my favorite or not. And then finally, the rules and mechanics and visuals and components. Those are two separate categories, but that's really the game itself. So those two categories kind of take everything else into account. In no particular order, the games that qualified for this list are War in the East, Hearts of Iron, Dune Imperium, which is a card game, Crusader Kings 3, Call to Arms Gates of Hell Ostfront, Door Kickers, Fire in the Lake, Dune Spice Wars, Distant Worlds Universe, Battletech, both the tabletop, and I did play the video game version last year, not this year, but that one actually would have been on my top 10 list of 2022. I actually really liked that game. I didn't play that much of the tabletop game this year. I only played like 2 scenarios with my brother and maybe 1 by myself. Not as much as I thought I was going to do because I got so into the Hex and Counter games that I just didn't play it. But I do love Battletech. Then we got Panzer Corps 2, War for America, Soleil or Cells, Bitter Woods, U-Boat, and Command Modern Operations. And that's the entire list. So at number 10, we have Command Modern Operations. And this is developed by Command Development Team. They don't even have their own name, and released by Slytherin, I think. But it is essentially an updated version of Harpoon, more or less, with more modern equipment than Harpoon even has. And its real claim to fame is it has a lot of the low-level equipment. So if you wanted to, practice planning out strike packages from different types of squadrons of modern military equipment, it's a great game. Its naval components are also really, really great. The only problem I have with the game is kind of recent. They had issues with some of the visuals in the game. They lost their access to one of the freeware satellite imagery companies that they used to use. And overall, the game just doesn't look that good on my screen. The resolution is not scalable. At least I don't know how to scale it, so it's pretty much unplayable for me right now. The text is very unreadable and is often cut off. So until I can figure out how to properly scale it, I'm not even really playing it right now. But earlier in the year when I was playing on my laptop, I did play quite a bit of it, and it is pretty fun. I played 10, 20 hours, something like that. Not a ton, but enough to get a flavor for it. And I love submarines, so it gave me a little bit of that. And I think that's really what keeps it on the list is the stuff that it does have, even though it's not very easy to play. The stuff that it does have is very interesting to me. Much lighter war game than I normally show on my channel, but it's called U-Boat. And I do consider this a war game, even though it's more of a life simulator to some extent. Just because it's set in a war, and it's really a solitaire war game, no different than if you were playing Silent War from Compass Games. It does the same thing that Silent War does. It lets you go on missions and manage your crew, but it does it all with really good visuals. So that's what puts it on the list above some of the older submarine games that I do like. And I've probably played the most for sub games. I've played the most of Cold Waters, which is my favorite submarine game. And it's not on this list because I didn't play it at all this year, ironically. But last year I played a ton of it, and that's still my number one submarine game. I just didn't play it in 2023, so this year I was playing only U-Boat for subs, and I really enjoyed it. I played a lot of it. I made it through about half a year. It's a slow game. It's quite grindy, but it is fun. It's a really fun game. Highly recommend it. The next game on the list is Cells, and this game is about the Battle of the Bulge, but it's about the high water mark of the Battle of the Bulge. And so it's a little bit different than Bitter Woods in that you're not playing out the entire battle. But that said, much like Bitter Woods, it really has everything in it that I love about the Battle of the Bulge. It has a really well-drawn map. It has, let me just open up the map. It has some really innovative features that kept it in a small form factor. It has great looking counters, and it's regimental scale. And I love regimental scale game. But the cover art doubles as the CRT. It's genius. I don't know why more games don't do that, especially these small ones. You can really fit a lot into a very small package. But you can see just how gorgeous that map looks. I love Battle of the Bulge maps just because they've got such a great... There's so many options when it comes to the color scheme of Wargames. And a lot of games are more readable when they're lighter colors like this. And so Battle of the Bulge lends itself perfectly to a very readable format. And this one is... The rules are good. You know, they're relatively basic, but they're good. And like I said, the counters look great, and the scale is just right for me. Next on the list is actually another Bulge game, Bitter Woods. And this is set up on the table right behind me right now. I love everything about it, and I just wish I could play it every day, to be honest. But my setup for filming tabletop games is kind of in a transition period. I'm trying to get a bigger table so I can actually set up 2 mappers, and hopefully 4 mappers. That's my goal. I want to have a table that can do 4 mappers. So I'm getting there, but in the meantime, the lighting on my current table is so abysmally bad that I can only film during certain hours of the day. And of course, it's winter, so those hours are like 7 to 9 in the morning, and that's just not feasible when you have a full-time job and kids that you want to play with on the weekend. So I have not been able to film it as much as I want, but when the light starts coming back into the world a little bit in the next season, I should be able to play it a lot more. But it's a great game. I really love it. I love regimental scale games, like I was just saying, and Bitter Woods is the best of the Battle of the Bulge regimental scale games. Okay, at number 6 we have War for America. And this is, again, by Compass Games, by Gilbert Collins, who I got to meet, along with Randy Heller and Bruno at the Compass Games Expo in the fall. And this is probably the most surprising game on the list. I did not think I would rate this as highly as I did, considering I've only actually played it twice so far. But both times I have been absolutely enthralled with it. And it is a strategic level revolutionary war game, kind of after the mode of the old Avalon Hill 1776, but with vastly updated visuals and really just interesting gameplay. I have just enjoyed every second I've played with it. I love revolutionary war games, and frankly, a lot of them are a little bit too basic. They're not war gamey enough for me, or they're just tactical level games, because there was an operational level war that was happening. It was just very spread out and very complicated, and it's hard to do a game about the political side that is affecting it. But the way that 1776 did it, and the way that War for America does it as well, is that it's kind of the political side of things is being handled by militias spawning in, and those are very important to the Americans, whereas the British, they start getting some reinforcements early on, but that they kind of max out their force strength, by the end of the second year of the war. So from then on, they are fighting a very defensive war if they can't win pretty quickly. And it's a really fascinating struggle because the Brits have clearly superior arms in the early game. It's just it's a war that really could have gone either way, had the politics of things been a little bit different and had the French not gotten involved. It really shows how important the French were to the American cause. So it's a game I highly recommend playing, and I really am looking forward to. There's another game on the horizon called Ultimate General American Revolution. And when that game comes out, assuming it has skirmish mode, like if you can have custom battles in it, I would love to combine those two games and have War for America be the strategic layer, and then have the battles be fought in 3D and in a video game format. Really interesting game. I do recommend it. Also very good value for a strategic revolutionary war game. It's a pretty good price, in my opinion. At number 5, we have Panzer Corps 2, and this is a game that I have been playing a good amount of lately. I know on this spreadsheet, I did this a few weeks ago, but the spreadsheet said hours played was 1, but I put in a few more hours since then, and I will stand by it being number 5 on my list because I think it is a really fun game. It is maybe a little less war gamey than some of my others. It's more of a puzzly game, or at least that's what people tell me, but it plays like a war game. I jumped right into the Kursk scenario, so I didn't try the tutorial. I've played these games in the past. I played the old Panzer Corps games, and I've played like the John Tiller games, which are very similar. So I kind of know what I'm in for when I play them. You do get wrecked the first time if you don't know what the point of the scenario is. And in the Kursk scenario, the game tells you what the point is in your briefing. It tells you you're going to get counterattacked from the north and from the south. And the attack from the south is going to be stronger, but it'll come later. And the attack from the north is what I chose when I replay. The first time I just ignored that. I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll take Kursk and then I'll worry about the other stuff. You don't have enough time to do that. So I changed my strategy and decided to go and take out the northern threat first and push towards Kursk from the south, and then pull back and defend in the south. And it's worked out great. Much better strategy than the first time. But things can go wrong very, very fast in the game, which I love. I love how you can have just a disaster occur. It's so fun. And it does have multiplayer. It has co-op scenarios, so if you're into that, I would highly recommend it. I actually got it from my dad for his birthday because I really wasn't that into war games growing up. It's only recently that I've gotten really into it. So it's just something I wanted to share with him. A new version of an old game, and the graphics are top-notch. At number 4 on the list is another kind of a surprise. It's Civil War II from Aegeon. The reason that this is on the list is because I did play quite a bit of this. At the beginning of the year, I was involved in a huge Kriegspiel game where I was kind of running the economy and some of the logistics, and huge Kriegspiel. It was like 80 players, very involved. It got to the point where I was spending like 10, 20 hours a week sometimes on it. And eventually I burned out and I didn't finish the game. Kind of ashamed about the way that happened, but I just couldn't do it. And, with the kids around, and I got into making YouTube videos. So, but that was the Civil War II was kind of my idea driver for that game, because it gave me a lot of ideas about what makes the strategic level of the Civil War interesting. Great game. People used to say it was buggy, but I didn't have a single crash, and I've played two or three campaigns all the way through. Never had an issue. Number 3 is GMT's A World at War, and this is one that I've been filming a series on. Started that back when my laptop died in April. I think it was in April. And I love that game. Love it. It's another one I wish I could play every day, and I probably would if I had the right environment for it. But it does take up a lot of room. It is a 4-map. If you want to play the full game, it's 4 maps. But even with the European scenario that I've been playing, it is quite a lot of counters and quite a lot of stuff to keep protected from the kids and the cats and everything. So it is. It also is a slow setup, so it does take time to get it set up and take it down. So I haven't played as much as I would love to, but it's probably my favorite World War II board game overall right now, because it gives you everything, and it is kind of like Hearts of Iron on the table. Number 2, that just beat it out, probably because it's a computer game and I love computer games, is Hearts of Iron 4. World at War is Hearts of Iron 4, more or less, but Hearts of Iron 4 does everything, and it does it smooth, it does it better. But recently it has kind of taken a turn for the worse in some ways, in my opinion. I haven't really loved the last 2 patches, really. I didn't like when they locked the size of the air squadrons to 100. I liked being able to set whatever size I wanted for the air squadrons. And I haven't really been grooving on this latest patch. I've only played it like a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 campaigns. And I used to play Hearts of Iron 4 a lot. On this list, I think this is my most played game in total number of hours. So I'm pretty experienced at it. So I feel like I know what I'm saying when I say I don't really love the direction it's gone. Maybe next year they'll change things up and make it a little bit more sandboxy again. But you can always install mods to fix any mistakes that the developers make. So luckily there's a ton of people who make mods for that game. And so that's why it's on a lot of people's list. If they're into kind of casual wargaming, it's number 1. For me, it is number 2 because I found something that's just a little bit better. And that something is, of course, Gary Grigsby's War in the East 2. This game has really changed my outlook on video games in general. I absolutely love it. The backstory to how I came to wargaming in general is I used to be a Dota 2 player. And the thing about Dota 2 is it has very complicated and very layered rules. So the rules have built up over time on the top of these original like user-created rules. And what appealed to me about War in the East and about A World at War is they have very similar rule sets to Dota because they're series that have been around a long time, and I really like the rules bloat that they have. So it feels like you're always unlocking a new part of the game, and it's also has the psychological effect on me that I talked about in my review for the game. So I thought I would just kind of finish out the year by reading my description and my review of War in the East 2, because this is a game that I feel like has kind of changed my outlook on video games in general. I always thought that complicated meant multiplayer, that you had to be playing against a human. And War in the East has really shown me that you can have kind of complicated, kind of complex game, still have it very playable, and still have a good enough AI to feel like you're competing against something, but what you're actually competing against, just like in MOBAs, is yourself. And that's kind of the theme of this review. So let me just read it word for word, and I hope to see you next year. It's been a really great year. I've loved making videos, but without further ado, my review of War in the East 2. The description of the game is factual. War in the East 2 is the most comprehensive, most realistic, and most advanced war game, modeling the Eastern Front in World War II. But it is also an interesting game psychologically. The feeling of anxiety that the game can impose can be quite the rush, while at the same time, you might spend days paralyzed, unable to click the play button. It's the hardcore experience that many modern games seek but never really find without artificial grind or forced toxic interactions with multiplayer teams. But what War in the East manages to do is something that's truly unique in the wargaming space. A totally immersive game that really forces you to confront the enemy and at the same time yourself. I highly recommend the game, although I realize that most people will never get past the $80 phase. To me, the experience is worth every penny, and it is something that I will always come back to. If you're struggling to find a gaming experience that confronts you with a reality within yourself, while still providing a chance to play with skill and cunning, this is that game. It's a game that rewards you with confidence instead of skins and loot crates. It's a game that decidedly is two-dimensional in appearance, but four-dimensional in scale. A game of literal 4D chess. I hope that someone, somewhere on the downturn of their physical gaming abilities, who feels that they could still reach another level if they could just get the right game, will give this one a try. To me, the game has made me feel connected to gaming in a healthy, happy way that I never thought was possible. And I'm truly grateful for the experiences that I get every time I click play. So thank you again for coming to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome. If it's your 20th time, welcome back. And I hope to see you next year in a 2024 that'll be full of wargaming and a few 80th anniversaries coming up for World War II. So I'm planning some special events. Spoiler alert, Battle of Leyte Gulf. Naval stuff is not something I've done yet on the channel. Leyte Gulf is on the docket for next year. Second would be Battle of the Bulge. Once I'll have some more experience in Bulge games, I will, hopefully for the close of next year, I'll have a nice Battle of the Bulge. Hopefully a cinematic style kind of Battle of the Bulge movie featuring several different war games. And I'm also on the fence about a D-Day game. I've played Normandy 44, which is a great game. So I might do a D-Day game as well. Otherwise, I will definitely talk about D-Day. To 2023, I say adios. See ya.